Hiya, my name's Charlie and welcome to my channel. And welcome to my weekly reads. As always, how are you guys? Let me know in the comments below. So this is like the week, as you can tell from the title, that I feel like I've read so much. So obviously the 1st of September I started Shorty September. So from that point onwards I had this mission. I was like, I'm going to try and do a book a day. Obviously they are very, very short. But still, it still is a lot. Plus I've still got obviously other reading projects on the go, as you will see. So if it looks like I'm talking about a lot of books, it's because I've just read a lot of books. It feels like all I'm doing at the moment is reading, aside from obviously my daily things. But yeah, it's a lot. So anyway, I'm gonna literally, because of that. So also what I'll do, I'm saying my usual, obviously I'll leave timestamps in the description for like all the different sections in case you're interested in some more than others. So my initial bit will be my obviously my weekly reads and the non-booker things, and then I'll get into my updated booker rankings, which again I'm timestamp, and then like a natty bit after that. So if you're only interested in one bit more than the other, like just look in the description, as I said last week. So yeah. So the first book I'm going to talk to you about is Giovannis Room by James Baldwin. This is the first shorty that I picked up because it's like one I've just been most excited to read, being honest. And I read and loved If Beale Street Could Talk last October. I think I actually read it on my birthday last year, and it was just such a perfect book in my opinion. And this was just so good as well. Like, it was another 5-star read. Like, I feel like James Baldwin is another one of those authors that is just like in his own league in terms of every single, like, I just want to read all his books, and I've only read 2, but there were 2 5-stars. So anyway. Giovannis Room, in case you don't know, is set in Paris in the 1950s. And in this book we follow David, who's a young American, and he's in Paris, and his wife-to-be, I think it's his wife-to-be, yeah, his fiancée has gone on holiday to Spain, so he's waiting for her to return, and then that's when he sort of like meets Giovanni, and obviously the relationship goes off from there, and it's so gorgeous, and I just really, really loved it, and I feel like this is going to just jump onto my favourites of the year again. It's another one that's like leapt on my favourites pile. Yeah, that's that one. So the next book that I read was Limbic by Peter Piscopello, and I stormed through this book collection, partly because I was obviously trying to get through it because for my book a day thing, but also partly because it's just a very accessible collection, and I just think it does so much, and I just love like how it plays with form as well. I love poems that do that. And as with all poetry, I'll go back to it, and I will revisit this over and over again. But yeah, I really love this collection. Peter Piscopello is from Glasgow, so this could count for September. For those of you if you're wanting to find a book poetry collection, something easy to read for that. So yeah, I read But the Girl by Jessica Zan May Yu, and this also, apart from Shorty September, this also counts for my first Straya September pick, which is a readathon been hosted by Scott. So obviously all the hosts of all the readathons, I forgot to say, will be in the description and stuff, so in case you want to join in, you can still join in. And yeah, so this, I think, right. This is about we follow girl, and she's from the beginning of the book we find out that her parents are Malaysian, and her mum was pregnant with her, very heavily pregnant with her when she arrived in Australia, and she literally gave birth to her on the day that she arrived in Australia. So and to sort of give her the Australian sort of like passport, as it were, and yeah, so that's like one element of it. And then she heads over to, she gets a university, so she goes to study over in the UK. The majority of this book is set in the UK, which I wasn't like expecting. I should have really looked it up. Basically the lead character is doing her PhD over there. So we have all of that, and she's doing her PhD on Sylvia Plath. So which I thought was just really, really interesting. And it said, like, I think she like initially she's like drawing the parallels between herself and Sylvia, and then towards the end of it she's sort of, because it's all to do with her identity, and then she's she by the end of the book she's realizing that like her sense of self runs deeper than that, and it's more to do with the roots. It's more to do with the roots and other ties with her, like with her family, like so with her grandparents, etc. And I just thought it was beautifully done. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Also, side note, one of the first bits I read in this, so obviously I picked this up when I went in London to the bookshop crawl with all the booktubers, and one of the first things that's referenced when the lead character is in London is Green Park Tube Station, which is where me and Emily met Alice and Jem, which was just so lovely because she was describing the scenery, and I knew I could picture that place, which I loved so much. And the fact that I picked this book up when I was there just makes I love like the serendipity of that. So yeah, I just think that was just so gorgeous. Felt like as I was reading it was like linking in with some of my book of books that I read, because Sylvia Plath is mentioned in The Bee Sting, and then also Penang is mentioned obviously in The House of Doors. So yeah, there was just like little coincidences like that I read and I was enjoying. So yeah, this was a really good book. There's also some chronic pain representation in here. So the lead character struggles with her back pain. So I thought that was really, really interesting as well. So yeah, another good book. So the next book is was an inspired pick because I'm on this like little WhatsApp group called the Waffle Group with a bunch of other like booktubey things and my sister. Which is, I just love those girls so much. Jem, Alice, Jack, Danny, and Ange, and Emily obviously, and yeah, whose channels I'll obviously link in the description. And so I think Jack said the other day about maybe us starting to do some more mood reading. Because I feel like a lot of us are like weighed down by our TBRs every month. So the first Monday of the month, I think we're naming Moody Mondays. So my pick for that also was another, obviously Shorty, was Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. This is one that's been on my TBR for a really long time. I think it was like on one of my read or on haul products thing. So yeah, and this is sort of the classic adventures. In this book we follow Phileas Fogg, and he's at the beginning of the book he's in the Reform Club, which is like, I think is it still a club that's in London now? It's like an esteemed club, and we find out that he hasn't really left or gone anywhere or done very much with his life. I think it's hinted that previously he's actually had adventures, but he hasn't done anything for a very long time. And then someone sort of like, it becomes like a bet about, he has a bet with his fellow people in the club about whether about the adventure of going around the world in 80 days. So obviously this is like, a lot of you will probably know this, but it was a very, very fun story, adventurous, and I raced through it. The writing was really accessible, and yeah. This book was first published in 1872, so there is a content warning for racism, particularly towards the Aboriginal and Indigenous communities around the world, and bear that in mind. So that is that. So the next book I read was Mr. Palomar by Teleo Calvino. And the main thing I remember about this is, so this is like another observational book. So it's like broken down into different sections, and it's basically like Mr. Palomar sort of going around about his life. So it's got like Palomar's vacation, Palomar in the garden, Palomar looks at the sky, Palomar in the city, etc. And it's like broken down into like little, like, not fragments, but like, yeah, these little kind of like, it's kind of, I think it's actually, when I had logged it on Storygraph, I think it says short stories. So it's kind of written in that style. But the main thing that like jumps in my brain when I'm trying to like think about this collection is, I was turning to a section in the garden, opened the page up, and it said the loves of tortoises. I sort of misread it, so in my head I'm like, oh, it's talking about the love of tortoises. Mr. Palomar is kind of like, it's kind of like a Ezio Trot situation. I don't know whether any of you guys read that book by Roald Dahl is about, basically there's a character that they basically love tortoises. So I thought, oh, it's going to be that kind of like thing, how very sweet, how very nice. And instead, what it actually says is the loves of the tortoises, meaning it's like the mating habits of the tortoises sort of thing. And it talks about basically tortoise sex, and very like graphically talking about this tortoise sex, seemingly out of nowhere. And I was just like, what? So yeah, it was just, yeah, it's quite a quirky book. But yeah, I didn't hate it. It's sort of 3-star territory for me. It's kind of like, yeah, it's good. But yeah, very, very weird. I was like, what? Anyway, moving on from tortoise sex. The next book I read was Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica L. This is another book that counts for Strayer September. And this is basically talking about a mother-daughter relationship. And this is set in the autumn time in Tokyo. So basically, my mother and daughter have sort of gone off together for that. And then it's another one that's very, very observational, as there have been quite a few of these short books. Yeah, I like this book. The writing is really, really beautiful. Lots of people talk about this has been on quite a few people's favourites of the year last year, and so many people have like raved about it. So, and I can see why. It's the writing style. I think it's very, very beautiful writing. Yeah, like I like this book, but it's not like a favourite to me. I don't really know why. Maybe it's because obviously I'm reading lots and lots of books, and I feel like because I've read so many like observationally type kind of like, not so much, it's not like a super plotty book. I think if I would have read this maybe at a different time, maybe I would have appreciated it a little bit more, being completely honest. But that is this is what happens sometimes. Right, and then the book that I finished yesterday was Rainbow by Lydia Conklin, and this is a short story collection, and it's kind of like does what it says on the tin. It's basically encompasses stories, a whole rainbow of stories surrounding the queer communities, and there's just like so much representation within this book. There's also quite a lot of trigger warnings, like content warnings within this, so just bear that in mind as well. The first story I really enjoyed, it was called Laramie Time, and that was about a lesbian couple and their quest to sort of like have a baby. So there's obviously like fertility warnings with that. And then other things like the topics that are like talked about in this are like obviously like binders, top surgery, phalloplasty. There's like I said, there's pan representation, there's stuff to do with like pronouns. There's just so much jam-packed in here. I listened to this on audio yesterday because yesterday I was having headaches. Obviously we're in the UK, and at the moment, as you can see from me wearing my dress, we're going through a little heat wave at the moment. So yeah, I was having these headaches, so that's why I turned to an audiobook. And this was good. This was another good one. That's another one that's been on my shelves for a little while, so I'm pleased that that's off my shelves now. The next book that I finished was one that I received kindly from NetGalley, so thank you NetGalley. It was Matisse Like Me, and this is basically a picture book. This is obviously talking about, again, being Matisse, and this is a Canadian book actually, so the Matisse community I think are from Canada, I think. But it's like such a beautiful book, and it's got like, it's just really, really well illustrated. I feel like it talks about the topic of being Matisse and Indigenous. They're an Indigenous community, and it talks about all that so beautifully, like the food. It's got like food descriptions. There's a recipe in the back as well, which I just thought was really lovely, and as well with a really gorgeous glossary. So yeah, I just thought it was really, really beautiful. And also this one counts for my published in 2023, because I think this is literally out imminently. I think Matisse, I think it comes out in the end of September. So yeah, if you've got children, it's beautiful. I highly recommend this picture book. It's just gorgeous, and it's also got gorgeous end papers. Side note. So that's that. Then we will get on to the books that I'm currently reading and kind of my reading plans. Apart from, I have finished a booker book, which I'll tell you about in a second, but obviously I'll talk about that before I talk about my booker books. I'm still reading Gwen Not In Love. I've made a little bit of progress. I'm sort of just over I'm at about 120 pages. I'm literally reading this like a chapter here and there, like in the evenings. But yeah, I'm still really loving it. So I say as I drop it on the floor. Yesterday I started my buddy read with Gareth, whose channel I'll link in the description, and this is Days at the Murasaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yakisawa. I literally read like a chapter of this yesterday, but it's really, really gorgeous and cozy. I feel like this is going to be like another perfect cozy read. So I'll read you one of the first lines. It says, from late summer to early spring next year, I lived in the Murasaki Bookshop. I spent that period of my life in the spare room on the second floor of the store, trying to bury myself in books. The cramped room barely got any light and everything felt damp. It smelt constantly of old, musty books. But I will always remember the days I spent there because that's where my real life began. And I know without a doubt, if it were not for those days, the rest of my life would have been bland and monotonous and lonely. The Murasaki Bookshop is precious to me. It is a place I know I'll never forget. And when I close my eyes, the memories still come back to me so vividly. I just think that's just gorgeous, and I feel like, yeah, this is just, I'm so excited to read this. Obviously, the next book you guys I know I'm reading. Me and Charlie and a bunch of other wonderful people are reading The Secrets of Heartwood Hall by Katie Lumsden throughout September, and for me this is a reread, but I'm really loving it. We had our first discussion on Sunday. We're doing like weekly discussions on Sundays, and it was just really gorgeous little chat, and I just really enjoyed it. I love the chat. I'm loving rereading the book. I'm literally reading like 2 chapters a day, kind of ish, yeah, and yeah, it's just working so well for me. I'm listening to the audiobook again and in the evenings, and reading it physically and sort of soaking it up. And because of the fact that this is my reread, I'm obviously noticing things that I hadn't noticed the first time, and it just makes me smile even more, which you wouldn't even think that a favourite, because this was one of my favourites of the year, and I feel like it's just making me love it even more, which I didn't think was possible. But yeah, and obviously chatting about it obviously does that too, because yeah, this is just such a pleasure. And I'm so pleased I'm reading it. So everyone, thank you so much everyone that's been like contributing to the discussion. It's just been so wonderful. It's definitely one of my happy things this week, like in the week. And so yeah, that's that. So in terms of like my reading plans, my shorty for today, I'm thinking it's going to be this one, but I may change my mind depending on how much time I actually have, because it's quite small writing. And I haven't started it properly yet. I think I read like the first paragraph, but yeah, Cannery Road by John Steinbeck. We'll see if I read this or if I turn to something a little bit easier. We'll see. So that's that. Now we're going to get onto my book of books, and then obviously I'll tell you my updated rankings. The last book that I sort of like finished was in this week, literally like a couple of days ago, was The Beast. I finished this yesterday. I think I finished this like yesterday morning, and it's The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. Right, I kept hold of this because I wanted to show you. This is a hug again, because I just love this book so much. This is just so good. It's a family story, and we follow predominantly, we're like following 4 family members. We follow Cass, we follow PJ, we follow the dad Dickie, and we follow the mum Imelda. And I listened to this on audio, and again I had the physical copy, so it's just so good. And I think, as I was saying to you last week, the first chapter did take me a little time to get like into, because I wasn't necessarily a fan of like the teenage kind of voice as much, but once I sort of met PJ, which is the teenage boy, I just thought he was so lovely. And I just think what was it, Scott said that this story like grows and grows and grows on you, and I think he commented on my video last week, and Scott, you were so right, that was exactly true. And I just love this book so much. I feel like the ending wasn't like completely perfect to me. There were like some things, obviously I won't give you any spoilers, but I feel like some of the things at the end I wish would have been done slightly differently, being honest. there was literally one point when I was reading this, like my heart was literally pounding in my chest. I think I was typing, something has happened, again I'm not to tell you what it is, but I was listening to it, and I was typing messages to Charlie at the same time, like being like really frantic, and my heart was racing, and I was just like really, really concerned, and I felt like that, like, so if a book can do that, I feel like, obviously that shows you, I feel like that's a good quality for me. It's a sign of a good book. So yeah, you'll see in a second where I rank it. On to my updated booker rankings. In at number 10, we've got Western Lane by Techna Marie. Number 9, Pearl by Sian Hughes. Number 8 is In Ascension by Martin McGuinness. Number 7 is Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry. Number 6 is If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffery. Number 5 is The House of Doors by Tan Fan Eng. So number 4 is All the Little Bird Hearts by Victoria Lloyd Barlow. Number 3 is Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein. This book actually got longlisted for the Giller Prize, which is like a Canadian book prize, and I'm going to watch, actually after filming this video and after editing everything, I'm going to go and watch Jolene from Bookworm Adventure Girl, which I highly recommend her channel, which she's amazing. Jolene is lovely. She talks about Canada Lit quite a lot. And yeah, I want to see her reaction to the long list because I feel like that's going to be interesting. And I love book prizes anyway, but yeah, I was just so happy for this book because I just love this book so much. But yeah, so that's in at number 3. Number 2 is obviously The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. And number 1 is, it's actually over there, which I'm not even going to go pick it up. It's Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, which is my favourite book from the long list so far. I just love it, love it, love it so much. And I feel like this did come close to like the top spot because of, obviously I said like me struggling to get into it at the beginning, and then the end bit feeling like I wished things would have been done slightly differently. I feel like that's what sort of, that's why it's number 2, but I definitely 100% will reread this book. So I just love the characters within it so much. So yeah, that is that. So the things I'm going to talk to you about. I know. In terms of Natty things. So obviously the kids went back to school this week. Oscar has started sixth form, which is very, very exciting. Bella's gone back to school as well, so yeah, and yeah, I'm just proud of the 2 of them. They've gone back really well, so that's happened, and I'm back in the library a little bit more this week as well. So obviously, like that's been really, really fun. Like I've loved seeing the kids again. And today we had our little session. It was just so wonderful. They just all make me smile. I just think it's just like the most fun thing ever. So yeah, the week has been a bit busier. Everything's sort of going back to normal, but yeah, it's all good. And also because there's the heat wave in the UK, like I said, which is crazy. I think like yesterday did it get up to like 33 or something crazy, and obviously us in the UK we're not really like built for like heat so much. So yeah, everyone's struggling a little bit, particularly at night time. But yeah, so yeah, that's that. In terms of like other things, oh I know what I was going to say, the Victober announcements came out last week, which we're so excited for. Like obviously all of BookTube kind of goes crazy when the Victober announcements get put up. I've still got to watch a couple of the actual announcements because I like to watch all of them. This is me. And also you get loads of good recommendations as well. So yeah, but yeah, that was also exciting. So as you guys know, well, some of you guys might know that I took part in a read along. Jack from Spread Book Joy and Anne from Anne's Book Chatter hosted a read along of Frankenstein like last month, the month before, and so that we did there was a few of us on Voxer that had a lovely Voxer chat about it, which was just really lovely. And we listened to the book via the Audrey app, or some of us did, and it was just such a wonderful time discussing that book. And so when the Victober announcements got put up, and the lovely Angela from Reading Off My Shelf suggested what she wanted to see whether any of us would be interested in reading The Tenant of Wildfire Hall. So that's what we're going to be doing, and so it's just going to be so wonderful. I'm so excited to read with this lovely bunch of people again. They're just like such a lovely group of people, and I've already like got my copy downloaded from the audio app, so I'm all ready for October. In October I try and keep my reading plans pretty clear, but apart from like sprinkling some Victoriatober books, but yeah, so yeah, I know that's going to be like a proper treat, so yeah, I'm excited for that. So yeah, that's that. And then ahead of me tomorrow, I'm going to be going down to Hayling Island, which I'm very, very excited for, to go and see my lovely friend. You guys that watch me regularly will know that one of my lovely friends lives in Hayling Island, and my lovely friend Emma. She's so gorgeous. I just love her so much, and she always makes me smile so much. She's like one of my faves. Yeah, so I'll put some footage if I remember and I don't like over edit, and I'll leave some space to put some footage of everything there. See, wasn't that gorgeous? I haven't even been yet, and I already know that it was gorgeous. So yeah, but yeah, that's like me at the moment. Yeah, and obviously I've got to read all my I've got all my plans to do the Shorty September. I'm going to try and read a book a day. This is like my plan. And I was I've been watching Heather from Soggy Expat Books Nerds reading vlogs, which have been making me smile every day. Like, it's just so brilliant. She's so hilarious. I'm new to her channel, so I've discovered her through Shorty September. But yeah, she's just so brilliant. She just has got the best sense of humour, and I feel like I always like watch her videos. They normally come up like when I'm just about to go to bed kind of thing. So I try and watch them then. But yeah, they're just brilliant. She's just brilliant. So anyways, but she said about, because I was like starting to feel like I'm struggling reading one book a day, because obviously they're really short, but still it's got a lot. She's breaking it down to 3 10-day chunks, and she said at the end of each 10 days, if she by each of those points, if she feels like quitting, she's going to let herself. So I feel like that's what I'm going to do, and I've actually drawn myself some little squares up. This is who I am, and I can I'm going to go through and cross all the days off that I've obviously read, and then and colour them in or something, because this will just make me happy having a little chart. Again, this is who I am. But yeah, that feels like it's much more achievable that way. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. Is it hot where you are? How are you doing? How are you coping? What are you reading? But yeah, so yeah, I hope you guys are well. Let me know, have a good old natter with me in the comments below. Take care, and send you guys lots of love. Goodbye.